one of my absolute favorite lightsaber designs. The lightsaber I've wanted for such a long time is finally in my hands. Well, kind of. Because you see, this is Star Wars The Black Series, Darth Malgus. To give you a brief picture of the box, there's some nice artwork there. And Malgus, if you're unfamiliar, is from good old SWTOR, that MMORPG that came out in 2011 that's still getting updates to this day. I still go back and play sometimes because I was obsessed with that game. And while none of my characters have ever actually interacted with Malgus himself, it was those press release, those trailers that really made me, I don't want to say fall in love with Malgus, but made him one of my favorite characters. So we're going to get him open, and getting him open feels a bit like exhuming a tomb, because there's so much goddamn wrapping, and not the fun kind of hip-hop one. Yep, he's right there. He's encased in it. Anyway, here he is, out of his tomb, and it's very rare that I buy an action figure these days that isn't a Transformer. So he's got the benefit of being a character I am quite a fan of. There you go, with his face sculpt, sort of, blocked by his respirator, which is his only other accessory. You can remove his head and remove the respirator, but he does need it because evidently this is after the bomb went off in his face, horribly scarring him, and while he was kicking Bastila's ass. But character-wise, I guess he can be best described as weapon of the dark side. This is a guy who believes so heavily in the dark side. Not only did he marry his Twi'lek apprentice, he then killed her, however long later, because he thought that would be the best way to get to the true emotional depth of the dark side. I like this toy. It's somewhat accurate. I'm not going to discuss the little minutiae of things because I don't know it that well, but I just like what I see. Although we can pull back his hood, at least that much. And the reason I've mainly stayed off the Black Series is kind of scale, because the only ones I've bought so far are Mace Windu, Luke Skywalker. I didn't even realize I'd lost his gun. And of course, Luke's father, Darth Vader. And see, this always felt weird about these two different scales for the Black Series. Like, it's either collect all of these and have all the characters in scale, or have this much of a scale dispute. And Vader and Malgus are more connected than you might initially expect, because Palpatine actually tried to mold Darth Vader out of the shadow of Darth Malgus. He saw Malgus as what Vader should be. Mind you, Vader never really got there, but he tried. Articulation-wise, the head is on a ball joint, and at the base of the neck, and the top of the neck, so you get some good range all the way around. His cape is soft, so it can whee however you want. The shoulder pads are soft rubber, so they get out of the way. Even this one moves a bit for some reason. I don't feel good. Oh, yep, there you go. All right. And there's something inside rotating. But the shoulders don't really need it because they move freely all the way out. No bicep swivel because his shoulder is a ball. No, it's not a ball joint. But there's a bit of ball jointed movement, it feels like. The elbow is a hinge and a hinge, or a swivel and a hinge. And this wrist is up and down. Well, this wrist, zap, sideways. The waist, he's got one joint up here, which feels very creaky, and a ball joint right here. Go forward, back, side, side, whee! All that good stuff. Hips are on ball joints. You go forward that much, outward that much. The full Sith Van Dam. It's a bit of thigh swivel here. A worrying knee joint. I don't like the way that looks. I don't feel like that should be visible. The knee pad is a separate piece that can move around. You also get a sculpt destroying boot cut swivel. It's a double joint, I think. No, it's just a single joint at the knee, but it bends that much, 90 degrees. Ankle can pivot. That's pivoting. That's hinging forwards and backwards, which it can also do. So, overall, articulation feels good. Nothing feels particularly weak, although that top joint up here does feel a bit stiff. I might just have to work that out. I hope it doesn't. Yeah, the fact that it goes. Not a fan of that. But, I'm happy to have this guy in any capacity. I'll just show you his neck. Can pop off. So it's a barbell ball joint. I think it's ball joint, and a joint at even further. But you can also take it off. Take his face off. And you can look at his kind of generic face, which isn't really anything, but it's also not. That's the best way to say it. It's indistinct, and yet it doesn't interfere with this character. I don't know. His face really has never been a focal point of his character, I guess. And then you could have a hard time popping it back on. There we go. And I really don't want to try and remove his cape. But you can give him his lightsaber, which looks properly like delicious red candy. I should. And it's as accurate as it could be at this scale. Some details are left out, but that's kind of what you expect. And he fits in his hand and he holds it fairly well. He can even point it. Classic swordsman pose. It's a little hard to dual hand it, I find. Let's give it a go anyway. It's not the best pose, but not the worst. He's kind of barely holding it with his left hand. Yeah, there you go. So overall, I'm just happy to have a figure of Darth Malgus. Sometimes I think I'm saying the name wrong. Because there's Malik, I think, with Revan. Darth Malak and Darth Malgus, and I feel like I almost get their names mixed up. And for some reason, this ankle is a bit looser. It's not a huge thing. He can still stand properly fine on his own. It feels a little looser than the other one. And I'm happy to have this guy. I don't know if I'm going to keep collecting Black Series. It feels awkward only having one at this scale when the other three are, what, 4 inches? 5 inches? Maybe 4 inches tall. I think this guy's probably closer to 6.5, 6 inches tall. So, I don't know who I'm going to collect next. Well, I know who I'm going to collect next. Good old Grievous comes out in November, or I could go backwards for the one that came out years ago. I don't know. I have to get a figure of Grievous at some point. I don't like the look of you holding it with 2 hands. So, may the Force be with you, and keep the dark side up your sleeve, or just keep it weird. Why did I steal somebody else's catchphrase there? Why is my catchphrase based off somebody else's catchphrase? These are things we shall never know the answer to. Not even the Force will give us the answers, but maybe, just maybe, if you join the dark side, you'll get one step closer to finding out. Bye.